One step forward, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps back. I'm Glenn Naughton with JetNation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. Also, be sure to click like and subscribe on YouTube. So, as you saw yesterday, the Jets drop a 30-9 decision, another blowout loss at home. This time it's the New Orleans Saints running up the score. And the big story of the day, of course, once again, Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, as we talked about last week, I said it, many others said it, his best game as a pro last week against the Eagles. Quick, decisive, mostly accurate, easily his best game. Yesterday, huge step back. He looked like the guy who was struggling a few weeks ago before his injury when we worried about him progressing. And here's the big thing. I've said this before, and I'll say it again because it's worth repeating. This isn't a case of a young quarterback coming out of a small program adjusting to the speed of the NFL and having a hard time with tighter windows and faster players and things like that. I mean, there is an element of that. But the biggest problem with Zach Wilson right now is he can't play catch. He can't. He's an NFL quarterback who is missing throws to receivers who are just a few feet away. There is no defender impeding the route of the ball. There is no defender forcing him to adjust his arm angle. I'm not saying that's not happening on some plays, but there are too many plays where all Zach Wilson has to do is play catch. Whether it's a running back standing 4 or 5 yards to his right, or a receiver standing 5-6 yards over the middle with no defenders, or on a rollout when he's got a receiver, a tight end going out from the flat into the secondary, no defender in the area, and his throws aren't close. This is a guy, and I don't care about level of competition, because again, we are talking about playing catch with no defender in the area, or no defender posing a legitimate threat to the ball or the quarterback. And these balls are bouncing yards away from the receivers. And it's become too regular, too consistent of a thing to write it off at this point. So while I am 100% in the camp of you don't give up on a quarterback, any player, but especially a quarterback, after a handful of games, even a full season, if a guy is showing flashes and moments where you think, okay, that's why we drafted him, as long as you're seeing that from time to time, you deal with the hiccups along the way. And Zach Wilson last week looked damn good. So you're like, all right, there's the guy we want. There's the guy who moves well, gets rid of the ball, gets it out, quick release, on target. That was there last week. This week, nothing near that. And for those of you, some of the older fans who remember, remember back when baseball didn't suck? And if you're a New York fan, whether it was Chuck Knobloch with the Yankees or Mackie Sasser with the Mets, developed what they called the yips. And these are professional athletes who've been throwing a baseball their entire lives. Chuck Knobloch was a second baseman. He had the shortest throw on the field. One day, made a couple throwing errors, and he was never the same again. Couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat, throwing from second to first. He's throwing it into the stands. He's throwing it wide left, wide right. Didn't matter. Couldn't make a throw as a Major League Baseball player. That's who I thought of yesterday when I saw Zach Wilson dirt a screen pass that was probably 6-7 feet short of his running back. This should not be happening. And anybody, I've seen a few people on Twitter. I've seen it on the forums at JetNation, which if you're not logged in, get registered. I've seen people say, I knew this was going to happen. No, you didn't. Nobody saw a guy, and I don't care, BYU, USC, whatever, high school, if you're a quarterback completing 70% of your passes in live game action, you certainly better be able to play catch, live game or not. You roll out, there's no defender near you, there's no defender near your receiver, you complete that pass 100 times out of 100. A swing pass, no defenders blocking the passing lane from you to the running back, you complete that every time. Zach Wilson's throwing these balls in the dirt. That didn't happen in college. It didn't happen in camp. It didn't happen in preseason. So anyone pretending, oh, I knew Zach Wilson was going to bounce dirt balls all over the field, stop it. I don't know why people tell these lies, but some people do. But the important thing here is Zach Wilson is broken right now. Whatever the reason, is it the coaching? Is it the listen? I don't believe that 3 or 4 bad games, because that's really that first stretch for Wilson. That's how long his offensive line struggled. If it only took 3 or 4 games to break a guy, he was never going to make it anyway. Any quarterback is going to have a rough stretch early in their career. And Zach Wilson, yeah, he got beat up a little bit the first few weeks. Since then, yesterday was the worst performance we've seen from the offensive line in over a month. They're going to have days where they're not as good as others, but they're not the issue that they were weeks 1, 2, and 3. For the most part, they've got their act together. We did see, but again, we will see, because no one's saying this is a Hall of Fame line. They're going to have days where they get beat. And yesterday they got beat a lot more than they have in recent weeks. So they're good enough that they're not going to be the huge problem that they've been the last couple of years. But they're also not so good that Zach Wilson is going to only have to worry about getting hit a couple times a game. Again, yesterday was the worst performance we've seen from them in quite a while. But Zach Wilson has to be better. Whether Ty Johnson with the drops, Keelan Cole had 1 or 2, DJ Montgomery had 1 or 2, and Denzel Mims, there's the other story. And this is going to happen sometimes as a sports fan. We're going to support teams, players, coaches, whoever it may be, for as long as we can, until the guy does something that kind of sends you a signal that I'm not what we thought I was. And that might be yesterday for Denzel Mims. I've been a huge proponent. I've been with a lot of others, but this is just me talking. I've been calling for him to get more reps, more snaps. What's going on? Why isn't he playing? And yesterday, we saw it. That probably Zach Wilson at a point where he was having his best drive. Made a few on-target throws on the move, and you thought he was getting into a rhythm. All of a sudden, huge flag, illegal hands to the face on Denzel Mims. You can't do that, especially when you're a guy who's fighting for every single rep. You can't go out there and jam your hand into under a guy's face mask and shove him back. And then on the next play, he lines up in the wrong spot, covers the receiver, illegal formation. You can't do that. He might not play another snap this year, because this team clearly didn't have any confidence in him coming in. And now he gets a shot and does this. If Denzel Mims sees the field again, it's going to be a product of injuries and just simply not having enough bodies. As Rich Cimini of ESPN pointed out yesterday, 1 snap in the second half for Denzel Mims. After those 2 flags, he played 1 snap the rest of the way. And it might have been his last one. We'll see. Robert Saleh says they still believe in him. Of course he's going to say that. But he says he'll be on the field next week. Because, some of these guys aren't coming back anytime soon. Elijah Moore's out for a few weeks. So he's not coming back. Davis is out for the year. So maybe Mims does get some reps. But it's not because of how he played. It's just sheer lack of bodies. But as I said, I supported him. Still an incredibly talented guy physically. I mean, this is a guy who we were all talking about what a huge steal he was in the draft. Getting a potential first rounder in round 2. And he looked good last year. Limited opportunities. You saw the tools. You saw the ability to go up and get the ball, with jump balls, with 50-50 balls, catch the ball in the crowd, some decent run after the catch that he put on display. And we haven't seen any of that this year, and again, he hasn't had the opportunities. But we found out yesterday, I mean, here we are, week, 13, 12, 11, 12, 13, and he's lining up in the wrong spot. If this has been going on all year, and this is why he hasn't been playing, then folks like myself who supported him, it's time to take a step back and say maybe he's got all these great physical attributes, but there could be some stuff that just maybe mentally. He's not there. At least for this offense, because this wasn't an issue last year. I don't recall him getting flagged for a bunch of penalties. I could be wrong. I'm sheerly going off memory. But in the end, Zach Wilson goes 19 out of 42 for 202. Denzel Mims gets some reps and then finds himself on the bench. Those are probably the two biggest stories of the day. LaMichael Pirine gets some run. I saw him getting a lot of flack. Listen, the team was getting blown out. He had 7 carries for 28 yards. Nothing great, but does 7 carries for 28 yards prove that you don't belong? I don't think so. I mean, it's nothing spectacular, but it's not like he went out there and had 7 carries for 5 yards and a fumble. So maybe he'll be, and again, probably not with the Jets, and I've talked about that. He'll probably move on after this year. Maybe he'll be a pedestrian running back, backup type player somewhere. But from what I saw from P. Ryan yesterday, he didn't look like a guy who doesn't belong on a roster. He just looked like a guy who doesn't fit this offense and is an okay player. But we'll see what happens with him moving forward. But the backs are banged up, the receivers are banged up, but none of that. I mean, I'm seeing that all over Twitter, all over Facebook, all over JetNation. That, but the weapons, the receivers were out, the backs were out. Still got to be on target. It doesn't matter. I mean, I'm rooting for the guy. As I said, wanted him, not giving up on him. But if you're making excuses for a guy not being able to play catch, who are we kidding? You got to be able to do that at any level. At your buddy's barbecue with a beer in one hand and a football in the other, you got to be able to hit the guy standing 5 yards away. That's just the way it is. Right now, Zach Wilson's not doing that. He's got to get better. That'll do it for us this week. We'll try to catch up with you again later in the week, and be sure to check out JetNation Radio tomorrow night. Alex Varallo and Dylan Terraman. And until that time, take care, Jets fans.